This talks about the role of the school district administration and the individual administrators. And Dr. Feeney has some things he wants to address relative to that, so we'll do that at this point.
What the recommendation is that we delete 302.8 and 303.9 and replace with a new 303.9, which should be in your packets. That's what it is. And I'm going to, those of you that know me know that I write probably better than I speak. So I wrote some thoughts and some comments that I want to make publicly so that everybody gets the same information. And normally I would talk with you. I'm going to read in this case, so there's not a question about what's said. Before sharing my rationale for recommending a change in Board Policy 303.9, I'd like to openly address some of the misconceptions and rumors I've heard and am hearing. This is a delicate, uncomfortable situation because although the recommended policy impacts our 4 administrators, 3 principals, and myself, it more directly impacts our elementary principal since he also is the head girls basketball coach. In recent weeks, I've been called gutless, immoral, and unethical, and frankly, I'm a lot of things, but none of those fit. I'm a big boy and can take that, but the rumors being spread are inaccurate and damaging to our district, and they need to be replaced with thoughtful dialogue. I will defend to the end a person's right to disagree with a decision or with me on logic behind a decision. That's how healthy organizations function. However, gossip, half-truths, and rumors are divisive and do not promote anything positive whatsoever, and they need to stop. I am proposing that all administrators be employed only as administrators during the duration of our contract with East Sac County Schools. Rumor is saying this recommendation is designed solely to remove the head girls basketball coach and that my recommendation is being dictated by a couple of disgruntled board members from down there. Evidently, some want to paint this as a SAC versus WLVA issue, and I can only question why, as that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Frankly, I'm responsible for some of this because the timing I used to have a conversation with the coach about girls basketball coincided with some other events. Chalk up the timing to my inexperience as a superintendent, and I have and am acknowledging this was a mistake on my part. However, the conversation I had was relayed to people as an attempt to remove the basketball coach, which it wasn't. During the conversation, I was asked what I wanted out of the meeting, and I replied, I want full-time administrators. Also, in retrospect, once I discovered that an administrator was a coach, and if that was told to me during the interview process, I didn't catch it, I could and should have had a conversation with the principal to share my thoughts. If I could change these 2 things, I would. But I can't, so all that I can do is to be transparent and honest about those things and do what I believe is the right thing. Second, I'm making this recommendation because I believe it will help our district grow and more students would be positively impacted. The recommendation is mine. It's not a directive from some board members. 2 things with this one. Only action taken by the entire board is legal. Individual board members have no legal authority. And 2, anyone who thinks someone is going to tell me what to do and I'm going to blindly follow them doesn't know me very well. When people question my motives, they're questioning my integrity. A person has to look at themselves in the mirror every morning and night as his or her word is all that really matters. Even though this is uncomfortable, let there be no mistake that I know and believe I'm doing the right thing for the district for the right reasons. Others can believe whatever they want, but they would be wrong. Feel free to disagree with my logic and recommendation. That's part of how a healthy system operates. But don't question my integrity or my motives. What are the specific reasons for this recommendation? 1, we have approximately 1,000 students, 80 faculty members, and 50 support staff. We are not a small school anymore and require strong leadership if we are to improve academic achievement and learning. 2, there is substantial research on the role administrators play in increasing student learning. The superintendent is critical at the district level and principals are critical within their buildings. Our focus needs to be on the continual academic growth and improvement. 3, we are moving more and more to site-based management within our schools, which requires more and more from the building principals. They are expected to be leading their buildings. 4, Although common sense, if a person is spending X amount of time doing something and X amount of time doing something else, he or she is splitting their time and energies and something has to give. One of the positions will be cheated in some way. 5, administrators have the opportunity and responsibility to impact the largest number of students to anyone in the school, within the school system. The superintendent with all faculty and all students, principals with faculty and all students within their school or schools. Let me be clear about this recommendation in our current situation. I'm not suggesting there is inadequacy of performance. If I did, this would not be the forum for that discussion, as it is a personnel matter handled through different processes, which includes requirements of confidentiality. Is it possible to be competent as an administrator and as a coach or a director? The answer is yes. Is it possible to be exemplary as an educational leader and as a coach and a director? To me, the answer is no. I don't want our system to simply be competent or average. I want it to be the school system that others look at and wish they were. Our kids deserve nothing less. Someone also, in the current situation, when someone serves as a head coach or a director, his or her direct supervisor is the activities director, which at ESAC is not an administrative position. In this situation, the system of checks and balances within the system is lessened or restricted because the AD may actually be a teacher in the same building as the coach or the director. The bottom line is that I'm making this recommendation because I believe it's the right thing to do for our school district. I know that our current elementary principal is hurting because of this recommendation. For that, I am sincerely sorry, as I'm not in the business to hurt people. However, this situation, I believe the recommendation will ultimately help a lot of students now and for years to come. That's my rationale for 303.9.
Do any of the board members want to address this issue?
What's 303.9 to say right now? I don't even know this.
There's a separate policy. 303.9 deals with principals and outside employment, and then the other one that I asked to be deleted is just for superintendent. Same language.
All right.
I guess I would also note that the language that put in the recommended policy doesn't necessarily preclude it, but it requires superintendent and or board's decision that that's acceptable to have outside employment, other than being an administrator.
Well, I've always personally wondered how school principals deal with everything that they have to deal with in the course of functioning in their job. And now with the Iowa core curriculum and learning for the 21st century and all of the other issues that are being brought before us by the state legislature, by the federal government, I think that it's practically impossible to do your job and do it well in a 24-hour day. So I agree to a large extent that it's, if you're going to function in the role of a sponsor of an activity, or the coach of an activity, or whatever you want to call that individual, I think that something is probably got to be slighted. If nothing else, certainly your family's got to be slighted.
No, I think we could equate this to sports, and it's kind of what we're talking about here, but I talked to a good friend of mine from a small town. Their school district's getting bigger. He told me that his daughters used to play all sports. Well, now that their district's getting bigger, they can't, because you can't do more than one sport to the highest possible level. So we could probably equate this, they spend all their time doing one sport because they want to be the best at it. So we could equate this to that in some way.
Any of you want to address the matter at all?
I'd just like to comment that our elementary basic skills tests are the highest they have ever been, and that comes along with guidance on what we can do to make those better and how we can better prepare the kids. And I know, that is a part of the administrative position and dealing with all the staff and getting them on board and checking and rechecking with those teachers to see that that is being done. And obviously, with the scores we had this year, that all worked together, and that was definitely done.
I believe, doesn't Mike have teachers going down to the state level and giving speeches and whatnot? So, I mean, I think that falls under his administrative ability for still being able to coach and be a principal. And I mean, no offense, Mr. Rutherford, but I think the family affair is really up to Mike and Angie, not the school board. I mean, how he and his wife want to raise their kids and stuff, it's kind of up to them. So I don't think that really plays a part in it. And, I just question, it is a bad timing, sir. It is, because we know that the school board member, and I do know personally that she wants him out. And I think it's very unfair, because Mike has been a coach for years. I mean, he coached me. And
Have you ever heard me say that I want Mr. Fisher out? Have you heard me say that?
No. But I've heard your friends tell me that. So it's hearsay, so whichever. But, I think it's unfair to say he can't do more than one job. I mean, first and foremost, our job, if we have kids, are as parents. So you're telling me you can't parent as well if you have a full-time job, or you don't do your full-time job as well because you're a school board member or have other outside interests. Right. This day and age, people have to multitask. Or they have to be a two-income family. So to say you can't do two jobs and do them both well is insane. What does Mike not do for the school? I mean, he's put 3 of my kids, if not 4, to the elementary, and I would not have anything bad to say about it.
You're getting on dangerous ground here. We cannot legally discuss any personnel in open session. I can't tell you what I like about how Mr. Fisher does his job, or if there's anything that I don't like about how he does his job.
Has he had
That's
any
against the
verbal or
law.
written warnings on his job for doing it poorly?
I can't respond to that.
So teachers, nothing of them are a public record that we can know
Well,
of.
it's a public record, yes.
So we
but
can
I
go look
can't
that
sit-
up
I can't
ourselves.
sit here in open session and discuss the performance of an individual who is under contract to the school. It's against the law.
But openly, you can say that it's wrong or not right for him to do 2 jobs and that it's unfair to his family.
No. We're talking about a policy. It will affect Dr. Feeney, it will affect Kellen Ritter, it will affect Debbie Oldhausen, it will affect Mike Fisher. The policy does not single out an individual. It talks about administrators.
Doesn't it also affect Mr. Telehuse and also he's
No.
listed as an administrator on your website?
No, he is not an administrator. His job is not an administrative job.
So, I'm kind of curious because Odebo, OC, whatever their initials are,
Just try all the letters in the alphabet.
that's what I was thinking. He just took their girls down to state, and his principal, New Bondages, their principal of their girls' basketball. And I realize, you're talking about black and white, that's another district and whatnot, but it can be done.
That is a question that I have about it. The old policy said, talked about outside employment only, correct? Is that? Okay. This one is now actually basically saying the same thing, but it's an inside and outside employment, correct? Inside would be, kind of coaching or any kind of a staffing deal. I mean, I do have a question. Are there other districts, smaller, bigger, our size, that are doing this right now? I mean, that isn't, not that we can't be cutting edge or whatever, but I would like to know if other people are doing this. And I guess you can't really go with rationale other than, I hope it's the same rationale we have in this being presented policy. But I'd like to know that. And the other thing is, I know there are a lot of things that are practice and not policy. Is it something that could be just practice? The other thing I'd like to piggyback on what Ms. Brunson was saying is not only if this policy would pass, or any policy that we do have in there about administration, it is not just the ones we have now, but any future administrators would be involved, not just the ones we have now. So I do have questions about that. I would like to know if other districts are doing this.
Brent, I can't speak to the policies of Odebo Larger, but I know their wrestling coach 2 years ago quit being the coach because he took the principal's job.
And that could be a practice thing versus a policy deal. I mean, that could be an internal deal that the board wouldn't really have as much to say about.
I have no idea about the policy.
Those are concerns that I have with this, because it is talking about changing something, and I don't know how old 303.9 policy was, how long that's been in the books. But it's been that way for a long time, and this is a major change, so I'd like to know what other people are doing. I mean, that's what we're talking about now. Voting on this paper.
Can I say one more thing? I have the unique opportunity of being both a teacher under Mr. Fisher's jurisdiction and a coach. I coached with Mike for several years. When I'm perfectly capable of taking practice when he has a meeting after school, and we've done that. We've worked together very well, and he trusts me. I trust him to tell me when he needs to be gone, and you know, we have a good relationship there, and I'm perfectly capable of taking those practices when that happens. And I don't complain about it. I welcome the opportunity. So I guess I would like to say that as well.
I have a question for you, Sherry. Do you feel you're less of a teacher because you coach?
Absolutely
Do you
not.
feel you can get your job done doing both?
I'm here on weekends, and I'm here after practice, and I make sure it gets done.
So what's the difference between a principal and a teacher?
Sherry, how many kids do you have in your classroom?
I have 16.
So there's 2 of those.
2 of what?
There's 2 classrooms for
Yeah.
the second grade.
Yeah, but I do
There's
my
2 first grade
things, she
classes,
does
2
her
third
thing.
grade classes, 2 fourth grade classes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's quite a few more kids than just what Sherry has. And that's just one
But
school.
he's just doing great. I mean, they're teaching and having to get their lesson plans for the day and tests and quizzes and
Right.
making sure. I mean, now with all those kids that were sick, having to get everybody caught back up, I
wasn't-
really, why not?
I wasn't disagreeing with your question. I was just saying what the difference is.
Okay. So wouldn't you want the teachers to be included in that, sir?
Who are you addressing?
What you're asking.
The superintendent?
What's your question?
Shouldn't teachers be included in that also then? If we're worried about keeping standards up and things along that nature, I'm just trying to make a valid point. I think our teachers do most, you're talking about a lot of coaches that are teachers also. Well, sir, you may say 16 kids, but what about the high school? Doesn't Coach McCullough do more than 16 kids?
The reality, I guess, is that my response to your initial question, ma'am, is that there is a difference between being a teacher and being an administrator with your scope of responsibility. Is one more important than the other? No, they have to work hand in hand. That's part of how the system works. But there's some differences in responsibilities between what's in the classroom and what a principal is expected to do.
Anybody else have some input to this situation? If not, we're going to leave it. We'll come back to it next month or decision.
Brett, I will talk to some people from Portable Arthur. I know some of the board members from over there, and I'll see what their policy says,
Right, agree.
if they know. Maybe not.